Welcome to Tuesday Talks with Shawnee Alliance Church. Each week we gather to discuss how being a follower of Jesus impacts our everyday lives. Whether you have been a believer for a long time or still have lots of questions about faith, we would love to have you join us as we embrace the joy of a transformed life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Tuesday Talks podcast. I am your host for today, Josh. That is my very dear friend, John Long. He's enjoying the sips of his coffee because it's tasty coffee that we make here. You know,
it's yummy.
We see the signs around the church. All I need is some Jesus and some coffee. Well, we've got that today too. So I hope you are excited. This is my first time hosting this podcast.
You're going to do great.
Well, thanks.
You will.
I appreciate the encouragement. I really do. Yeah. And so to go off of that, we are here to talk about friendships and just how John was recognizing me, saying that we're going to do great. We're going to be breaking down what it means to be a good friend from a masculine perspective. Now, ladies, don't tune us out. This one's for you too. Hopefully this is going to be entertaining. Maybe you listen to it and you can pass it along to your husband or your boyfriend or brother or whoever maybe needs to hear this. But we're just going to have some fun because if you came here for some deep intellect, this may not be the number one podcast for you. You know, don't tune us out, but this is John and I's day. This is what we do.
This is how we accomplish things.
Yeah, this is how we get things done. And because we're talking about friendships, John is one of my absolute best friends. And so that's what makes this podcast so much fun to do is, we're going to be talking about, the whole idea and concept about friends. Why do we have them? How many do we need to have? Stuff like that, because there's going to be different levels of, some people have lots of friends. Some people have a very close-knit, tight group of friends. And so we're going to be asking the questions and hopefully answering them as to, is there a specific amount?
Is that a question?
Sure.
Oh,
sure.
No, there's not a specific amount. You can have as many friends as you want.
So 3.
If you want 3, then you can have 3.
13.
That's fine.
23.
That's even better.
The more friends, the better?
Not necessarily.
Interesting. So now that you see kind of where we're going to be at today, we're going to dive right in. And again, ladies, don't be scared away because next week, Bridget and Sarah will be back to talk about friendships from a feminine perspective. Yeah. But for right now, the one that you've already got live and loaded, it's going to be us. So we apologize in advance about, hey, we're friends, we have fun, and that's what you're going to hear.
Exactly what we're going to do.
Wait, no, not Santa. What was the Tin the Tool Man Taylor? That was a real masculine thing. Yeah. Younger people are listening and they have no idea.
We're definitely old.
We're old.
I remember. Yesterday we had lunch. Remember? Mm-hmm. And I sneezed, and I swear I pulled a muscle. I'm telling you, we're getting old.
30s. We're approaching mid to late 30s, and that's stuff that us guy friends, we can talk about. Yeah. How much icy hot did we have to apply to our lower backs at the end of the day just to be able to get through, a competitive round of dodgeball or worship practice or whatever it was.
Or just getting up from your seat.
Yes, that is very fair. That is fair. All right, so let's crack this open. Why is it important to have friends, John?
It's important because you need somebody else's voice to tell you what's going on in your life.
Yeah.
You know, it's very hard to I'm a thinker. I'm an analyzer, so I analyze myself all the time, and sometimes I overthink.
Yeah.
So it's always good to bounce those things, those ideas, those perspectives off of someone else, especially when it comes to friendships, guy friendships. We always have, or we sometimes don't always have the right perspective, and it's good to have somebody who can kind of just put us on a level playing field and say, hey, you're wrong in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's so obviously there's varying levels of friends, because some people are acquaintances, right?
Yeah.
And so you can develop a friendship around that acquaintance. It's not going to be as deep as friendship as some other ones. Because I have a lot of friends that, are more along the acquaintance where we're definitely friends, but maybe we haven't done a lot of hanging out before. So that person may not be the one that's going to be like, hey, Josh, I think you might have been in the wrong there with this thought or whatever. And I may not, if one of those more acquaintance friends said something to me in regards to that, I may be like, oh, well, you don't even know me all that well or something like that. And they may not be the one to like call me out on something like that. Yeah. And that's where like a best friend, that would be weight in gold if you told me something like that. If you were like, hey, like I would definitely stop dead in my tracks and be like, oh, well, John knows me very well. So I'm that's going to be significant in being like, okay, well, if John says that I'm wrong about this.
And it doesn't always have to be pointing out the negatives too.
True.
You could go to somebody advice for anything. Hey, I want to take this new job or financial advice or anything.
Good point.
It's not always looking at the negatives, but acquaintances, you're probably not going to go to an acquaintance that for any type of advice other than just general. I think of acquaintances like work relationships. You go to you go to work and you have people who are friends there, but you don't hang out afterwards,
right?
And you go to them and you talk work stuff. But you're not gonna. You could, but very rarely are you going to get the deeper end of your thinking.
Yeah. Unless it's us, because we work together.
Yes. We're always with each other.
It's not creepy. It's not. But, yeah, I mean, the importance of having friends, like, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that most parents don't teach their kids how to have friends. Now, they may teach them how to behave around, other kids so that they can make friends, like don't steal toys, don't talk bad about people.
Don't hit.
Yeah. But, there's not this thing where we necessarily like have to be taught, oh, well, you need to have friends. Like you put a kid in an environment of like a preschool or something like that, and they're going to just automatically jump to each other naturally. So I think it's just embedded in who we are as human beings, and that Jesus, God created us to have friends. Like it's definitely something that He wants us to be able to share life with people.
Yeah, and you brought up, kids having friends and everything. And I think it was, like for me personally, it was so much easier when I was younger to make friends than it is now as an adult. It seems like it's harder now because you're strapped with work, children and family and all these other things take precedence over friendships, that it's very hard as an adult to make time for that friendship. But I really want to stress how it's very, very important to make time. People do need somebody to talk to, and even if it has nothing to do with they're going to even if it's not like something that you go and hey, Josh, I need help with this certain situation. It's just, we're just hanging out.
Yeah.
You need that.
Yeah.
It's like, I love going to the gym, and it's one of those things where it's a release. It's a, when I get out of the gym, I feel much better than before I went,
right.
Even though I'm dead tired.
Yeah.
Same thing with friendships is, when you're determining if this is a good friendship or not, you should leave feeling better than when you came.
Definitely. Yeah, because if you walked out of that feeling awkward, I mean, however, not awkward, but if you walked out feeling, not as lifted up, I mean,
right.
In all honesty, like I can't think of a day at work where we don't hang out in one of each other's offices for like at least a half an hour.
Right.
Just shooting the breeze, whatever comes to our mind. We don't come in with any specific, even when we do come in with like an agenda of like, hey, I need to talk to John about something. We'll talk 25 minutes about everything else that's just stupid to everyone else, that we're sitting there giggling about, for whatever reason.
Guys don't giggle.
We giggle. You gotta I always walk out and got a big old smile on my face when I walk out of your office because that was just important time throughout the day that's appreciated and whatnot. So yeah, it's important to have friends to be able to share life with. My spouse, John and I are both married. My wife, absolutely, my best overall friend. There's nobody that knows me better on this planet other than Jesus than my wife Jess does. And so, that's another aspect of a friend. Like fellas, ladies, you got your significant other out there. If you're not married, that friendship should be worth its weight in gold as well, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
And something that we talked about as we were developing the premise of what we were, the material that we were going to cover is, so if you are married or even if you're in a serious dating relationship, how much do we divulge to our friends about what's going on in those relationships? Do we tell them everything? Is there something that that we need to leave out and omit in our conversations?
Well, I think you definitely don't tell acquaintances certain things.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You better make sure that the friend that you're talking to about your significant other, your spouse, is somebody who is trustworthy and, is going to have a level head about them when you go to them.
Yeah.
And the other thing is you don't want to, as a friend, I don't want to go to you, Josh, and just spill a bunch of garbage on you.
Yeah.
And then hopefully in return you're like, yeah, you're right. That's not what we're talking about
in terms of our relationship.
In terms of our relationship with our spouses or things like that. You don't bring your dirty laundry. What you do is you go to a friend and just you tell them the situation that's going on and you truly ask for advice. Because I don't know anybody in this world who knows how to have a perfect relationship.
Yeah.
And you need other people around you to just lift you up and help you. But when you're talking about those specific situations, those are really, if you're a person who has 30 friends, those are your really close, tight 1 to 3 friends, and maybe you're a person who has only 1 to 3 friends. Maybe it's just your one friend that you absolutely, that's your go-to person that you can share that information with, that isn't going to hold any negative feelings about you or whatever.
Right, yeah. Like you use the phrase spill the garbage, and I'm always here to help John stay up to date with like popular phrases and acronyms and things like that. as I just educated John today on what the TikTok app was, and now he created TikTok-Toe.
Yeah, TikTok-Toe, man.
Look for that app to drop in 2020.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome.
So the phrase nowadays is "spill the tea."
Spill the tea, really?
Spill the tea. Okay, so what we're talking.
Who drinks tea?
I don't think anybody does. Bridget, Sarah.
I do occasionally. I do. Yeah, I have to admit. But really,
when you're sick.
Yeah.
When you're not sick?
Well, when I sing on Sundays, I have to, because coffee kind of tightens up.
It's a vocal thing.
Yeah.
That's smart. I get that. Okay.
Honey and tea.
Do you drink tea outside of those?
Very rarely, unless I'm sick.
Same. Chamomile. Isn't that what you drink to go to sleep?
I have no idea.
So the phrase "spill the tea," that's the one to go with now, because we're you don't want to go around spilling the tea about your spouse to say, like, hey, John, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to vent to you about my wife, That's probably not the best method to go. Now, if you are dealing with, something, with your spouse, can you have a good friendship that says, like, again, I'm not here to bash my spouse, but, hey, we've got this issue that's going on. Like, how important is that to have in a friendship?
Oh, it's extremely important. I mean, you got to have somebody you can go to.
Yeah.
That you can bounce all that stuff off to, and somebody who's going to receive it and still love you and your spouse.
Right. And that's where it goes back to where you were saying, like, in those situations, I fully respect if I explained something that maybe Jess and I had going on, like an argument or something like that. If John looked at me and said, Josh, I actually think Jess is more in the right here than what you are. I mean, I feel, first of all, you would definitely say something like that. You would shoot it to me straight. And then I need to be able to receive that so much better, because I'm like, well, John's one of my closest friends I've got on this planet. Like, so again, that means a lot.
Yeah. Because ultimately you want to grow as a husband.
Yeah.
And part of that growing is knowing when you're in the wrong and accepting it.
Right. So there are quote unquote boundaries of maybe what to divulge, what all to talk about when it comes to your marriage. Know who that, hopefully everyone's got that friend out there that they're like, okay, like when things get real thick, when things are not going well with life as they do, that you've got somebody that you can confide in that's not going to spill the tea to everyone else, that's going to keep things confidential and just be able to help you out with your situation, even if that's just listening.
Yeah.
Even if that's just like really, just listening and having you vent about an issue. That's a good thing to have in a friendship as well. So,
yeah.
So, John, do you reach out to other dads to help you raise your kids at all?
I have in the past. I used to work with a guy that we would talk about our kids all the time and try and bounce ideas off, like how do you deal with this and how do you deal with this, and do those types of things, and it's always good to help, because for one, no kid is the same,
right?
First of all,
right.
So but you can always implement ideas from somebody else.
Yeah.
Because I don't care how many books you read on parenting, you're not, you're not going to get it right.
Or if you're like me, who doesn't read books. Yeah. If I don't read the book, because they don't come with instruction manuals, so either you're taking a stab at it.
Listen, if they come with instruction manuals, there better be pictures involved.
And
not words.
And a return receipt. Because if that kid came with an instruction manual, then in that first inner leaf of that book would be like, purchased on this date.
Yeah.
And with a little.
Oh, there better be a warranty.
Yeah, right. Yeah. This one's defective. Of course he is. He's got your genes.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, I too, when it comes to, parenting, I'm going to trust a friend, again, a good friend that's probably got kids that are at least a little bit older than mine, to be like, hey, man, did your kid ever do this, and how did you handle that situation, right?
And if they tell you that they handled it very poorly, then you don't take their advice or the way they
yeah. They could say like, well, I handled it poorly and here's how, so that you can stay as far away from that.
Right, but they might not think they handled it poorly. They might be like, oh, I did this, that, and that.
That's true.
And then you're like, okay, I'm not going to take advice from you.
So you can be like, well, maybe next time I'm going to look at somebody else for this kind of parental advice from.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, parenting, again, there's, that's something that for the most part we're feeling out as we go throughout life with our kids. But yeah, it's significant to be able to do that, to be able to reach out to somebody. So, so to fill in the listeners a little bit, I don't think I'm saying anything that would shock either one of us. I'm on the higher end of being extroverted. Is that fair?
That is very fair.
That is very fair.
Yeah.
Now, you consider yourself an introvert.
Correct.
Which I would agree. I wouldn't say that you're like a deep introvert.
No, I can socialize.
You can socialize, yeah. But we wanted to talk about introverted and extroverted friends. Like, because I'm on the extroverted side and you are more on the introverted side, does that mean that one group has more close friends than other ones?
It might not mean that one group has more close friends, but like me being an introvert, I keep a really tight friendship circle.
Yeah.
I rarely let people in. It takes a longer time. There's, let's say it's an interview process. It's a little bit longer for me.
Yeah.
Whereas you say like, what's your phrase? There's nobody. What?
Strangers are friends that I just haven't talked to yet.
Yeah. And me, I'm kind of like, please don't talk to me. Please don't talk to me.
Yeah. That's what my I think it was my wife that told me that phrase a while back because, especially when we were first dating and she's just seeing, me just so easily go up and strike conversations with people and we immediately start laughing about stuff. Yeah, that making friends, acquaintance friends or whatever, is something that is very natural to me. But even with my high level of being an extrovert, while I would say that I've got lots of friends out there, a lot of them are acquaintance type friends, and hopefully that doesn't come off as being like a cold thing,
right?
Because it's not. But yeah, I still have a core group of my closer friends, that I actually like confide in or, hey, look, if I follow up with you, if I call you up on the phone, because I'll tell you like one thing, I'm not a phone talker. Like I don't like talking on the phone. If we talk face to face or text, I can do that all day. Like that's fine. But if I call you on the phone, like you're probably a really good friend because I don't like to call people on the phone. But it's important to check up on our friends periodically too, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, absolutely.
Because I definitely am a firm believer that if all of a sudden that someone's name pops into my head, like not always, but a lot of times I'll think like, okay, God, are you trying to like, is this someone that I need to reach out to? Because John and I were joking before we started the podcast about our in-depth level of thought, which is actually a lack thereof.
Correct.
So we're all busy and everything. So I feel like if just some random person's name enters my head that it's, more of like, hey, God's maybe nudging me saying like, who knows, maybe this person's got something that's going on. And as a friend, like you should check in on them, follow up with them to see how things are going.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it's very natural for us to go and experience life and keep things internalized.
Yeah.
And so how much does it mean to someone when all of a sudden you get a random phone call out of the blue and it's just like, hey, bud, man, you just, your name popped in my head and just wanted to call and check in on you and see how things are going. The first 5, maybe even 10 minutes of that phone call may be just, jovial conversation that doesn't have any kind of depth to it. But who knows? I've had plenty of those conversations where, somebody's like, man, you know what? I'm glad you called because I got some stuff going on. And how amazing does that feel, when that happens? And you're like, thank you, God.
Yeah. As long as you can help in that situation. You don't call the guy's like, dude, I got this going on. You're like, dude, I don't know what I'm going to do for you because I don't know what to do.
I throat punched my kid. Have you done that before? Thought about it.
That would be the advice you don't take.
I threaten my kids 3 times a day to throat punch them. I hope everybody's got the visualization right now of just like the actual kung fu chop to the atoms.
If I was going to throat punch somebody, I'd do the Matrix. You know how they do in the Matrix?
Yeah.
Where the first one, the best one, the only one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Where Neo's like, they're in the subway and he hits, but he's like inches away, and then all of a sudden he just spreads his hand out and he's like, you remember that?
Yes, I do. Now I'm going to be practicing that with my kids tonight. How close can I get
without hitting them?
Without actually hitting them, and then open my fingers up and be like, yeah. So
if you haven't seen The Matrix yet, watch it.
Watch it.
It's awesome. It's on Netflix.
Is it on Netflix?
It's on Netflix right now.
So that's a brochacho recommendation to all the bros out there.
Absolutely.
Do you use a lot of broisms?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You're my protein shake because of the fitness, the working out in the gym. I compiled a little list. Oh. Do you want to hear these?
You go ahead.
The brochacho, that's a good one. Most people have heard that one. Brotato chip.
Brotato chip. I like that.
Marco Brolo. Tim Tebow. Or if somebody's a little fibber, you're my good friend and I caught you in a lie. Watch out, Bronocchio. My Brobi-Wan Kenobi. That would be Chris because a Brobi-Wan Kenobi is a friend that you can go to that's really wise.
What are you saying?
Well, no.
I see.
That came out the wrong way.
I see what you're saying.
Moving right along, Teddy Roosevelt, Edgar Allan Bro, Boba Fett.
See, you're throwing out these Star Wars things, man.
There's a lot of them.
I'm not a Star Wars.
C3P bro. Another one. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to make up for this. If Chris is the Brobi-Wan Kenobi, then you can be the Brofessor. There, I'm shedding some intellect your way.
There you go. Yeah.
We're going to go have, John and I are going to go and hit up a barbecue at one of our house. We're going to have ourselves a little brobecue. A brobecue. Or the best one to use this time of year since it's Christmas season, Frosty the Bro Man. The Bro Man. Okay, so sorry for all those broisms. But what kind of masculine, male friendship podcast would this be without, I don't know, how many 12 of those that I just gave out? Yeah. Hashtag all those later. Actually, probably don't.
Do people even say bro anymore?
It was like a gym thing there for a while. I think so.
Yeah.
I'd probably say bro in text messages.
Do you?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Maybe I need to get...
I don't know.
That's so early that's so early 2015.
2015. That's so long ago.
So long ago. It's almost 2020.
I know.
What kind of vision do you have? Spiritual growth in our male friendships. So I'm going to let the podcast listeners in on you and I a little bit, if that's okay. But I just went to John the end of last week, the beginning of this week. It's been really recent. And I was like, hey, man, I want to start doing a Bible study with you, just you and me, because of the comfort level that we have between the two of us, between just the kind of friendship. I know, and this isn't to say that I couldn't do this with other people, because I absolutely could, but it just came to me talking to John that, like, I'm like, man, I feel I can grow spiritually through our friendship.
Yeah.
And that not only were we talking about confiding and everything else, but that should have a serious impact on us in our spiritual lives as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You want to find a friend who's gonna lift you up spiritually and help you out that way, because the number one thing at the end of the day is you always want to grow spiritually. And me personally, I'm not. I get to the end of the day and I'm like, oh man, I messed up, or
Yeah.
you know, not necessarily that I messed up, but I kind of stayed the same.
Yeah.
You know, you ever get that way?
Plateaued.
I plateaued. You know, and like we can bring that back to the gym thing, where you know if you go into the gym every day, and each week you got your Monday routine, your Tuesday routine, your Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever.
Yeah.
And you're doing the same thing on each day, every day of those. You're going to plateau. It's
going to be stagnant.
It's going to be stagnant.
Yeah.
You're just going to hit.
Yeah.
And you want to always have your spiritual life growing, and you want to find somebody who's going to come alongside you and say, "Hey, let's do this together." And it doesn't necessarily mean somebody who's more, quote unquote, more spiritual than you, or anything like that. It just means like, hey, you're both in the same spot. You both want to grow,
right,
spiritually,
right,
or you all 3 or 4, whatever it is, and you just start. You set up a time, or maybe it's not even a time. You just set up something to where you start growing and sharing in that, because we always want to be growing and knowing who Jesus Christ is.
Yeah.
And we want to be, as a Christian, we want to be more like Jesus. And we constantly fall short of that.
Yeah.
Always. But if each day we can do something we did a little bit better than the last day, you know, then we're moving forward.
Yeah, and Scripture poses the question, who's your counsel? You know, so when it comes to who, you know, in other words, like if we modernize that, like who's your core group, you know, that you can turn to? And that's where it's really important, you know, obviously John and I working here at the church, like we always are going to recommend the fellowship of being in church is so significant to our faith, to be around a body of other believers and things like that, to be able to uplift each other, worship together, things like that. But there's a level of small group aspect that's very significant to the growth of our spiritual lives as well.
Yeah.
So also here at Shawnee Alliance, we're a big proponent of having like our Wednesday night small groups, which happen here at the church. But then there's also a lot of small groups that take place in our the homes of our congregation, you know, where they'll have small core groups of maybe it's a singles group. Maybe it's a young adults group. Maybe it's young married couple groups, or maybe it's a group of families, like, you know, families that the kids can go and play while the parents feed off of each other and everything too. In this case, we're specifically talking about like if you've got 1 or 2, 3, not 1, but 2, 3, 4. You know, like my buddy Andre, that we both go and get our haircut, you know, even there at his barber shop, they open, you know, he'll shut the doors to his barber shop just to have like a close group of like 4 or 5 guys that just to get together to not only grow their friendship, but also grow spiritually.
Yeah.
And how significant is that? Because you want to talk about friendships that are going to last, get Christ in the middle of that. Just like, you know, what do you need to have a good marriage? Christ in the middle, right? To have a good friendship, get Christ in the middle of that and see where God takes that relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we're going to be, John, I hate to scare you right now, but we're going to be in our 60s, 70s, telling the same dad jokes probably at our brobecue.
Oh, no.
So, as we talk about this, look, if you don't have a friend right now that you feel can help you grow spiritually, maybe that should be something to pray about. Maybe that's something to seek out and say, Lord, I got my girlfriend. Maybe maybe you're single. That's maybe you're married. Wherever you're at, and you're asking yourself the question, like, well, right now I just don't have somebody that I feel as a friend could help me grow. Hey, pray about that. Let that be something that you reach out to God, because my guess would be that He's got somebody in mind for you that you just maybe haven't considered. Yeah. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And John and I also talked about this beforehand, because this is something that I don't think about as often, but it should be, is, are we praying for our friends? Yeah. Are we thanking God, at the end of the day, or at the beginning of the day? I love starting off my prayers, obviously praising God for who He is, thanking Him next for the things that He gives to me. And it's so easy, for me to thank Him for my wife and my kids. So I pray and I thank Him for the family and the job and, the things that I have. But I'll be honest, I don't think about it often, like, man, John, I'm thankful to have you in my life as a friend. And I'm thankful for all these other friends that I've got as well. And that should be something that we're lifting up to God and just saying, hey, there may be something that's going on in my buddies' lives. There may not be something, but I pray for them too. The friendships, this would be a lot different life that we would be leading without any friends.
Right. We're made to be in relationships. I mean, it's in our DNA. It's what we are, and it's hard to think of going through life without having a friend.
Yeah.
Or several friends, like we touched base earlier. I'm a guy who's, I have a core group of friends, and then I have friends outside of that, but I got my real core group that I'm going to share life with, and be vulnerable with,
right.
And I can't think of living life without that. It's just, we need it.
Right.
We need it, especially as you grow, because like we've already said, there's no manuals. You can read books and they can help you out, but there's just situations that you need people in your life.
Yeah.
To really help you. Mm-hmm. And,
just to tackle things organically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good or bad.
Yeah. Good or bad. Good or bad. I mean, it's great to have friends when things are going great. We've kind of beat everybody up on everything's, we have friends because everything's bad.
Yeah.
We kind of talked way too much about that.
Maybe. But they can feel the happiness that we have.
But yeah, I mean, friends are great just to have to just share a life and make the day go by.
Yeah.
So much better. I remember working on the job just before I was got employed here, and it was just so much fun just hanging out with the guys and just doing stupid stuff. Not dangerous stupid stuff, but just
hanging out
while we're working and just having a good old time. Even though, sometimes you just got to make the best out of any situation. Most people hate what they do for a living. And, I was in construction, and that was like the consensus around most of the guys there. They just hated it.
Hated the job.
Yeah, hated the job. And it's like,
but
you got
guys hanging together.
But you hang out together, you make the best of the situation, and it becomes fun.
Helps pass the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even though, you're doing something that's maybe repetitive and just mind-numbing.
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 Man, I hope nobody's minds are numb after this conversation that they just endured.
Mine might be.
Well, we hope that this was entertaining at the very least and possibly educational from two guys who...
well, I am a professor.
A brofessor.
Professor.
A brofessor. You're the brofessor. So that's what we've got for you guys today. John, before I conclude things, would you care to send us out in a little prayer for everybody's friendships?
Absolutely. Father God, we thank you for all that you're doing, and we just pray that you use this podcast to reach people that may not understand what friendships are for, or may not have the significant friendships that they so desire. Or maybe they don't even know that they desire those. God, we just pray that you will work in that you will guide people into the right friendships. That way they can grow spiritually and just become closer to you and closer to other people, closer to your sons and your daughters that you have put in their place. So God, we thank you for all that you're doing. Pray that you continue to guide and mature us each and every day. It's in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Everyone, thank you so much for joining us as we talked about friendships from a male perspective. Broskies, brotato chips, Marco Brolo. Next week, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Broby-Wan Kenobi.
Yeah.
All right, so
that was Chris, wasn't
it? Next week, Sarah and Bridget will be back to talk about friendships from the feminine perspective. And let's see how many friend names they're able to come up with.
Probably none.
Take that on, ladies.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. We hope you had fun. We'll see you back next week. God bless.
Blessings.
Thanks for listening to Tuesday Talks with Shawnee Alliance Church. Let us know your thoughts by leaving a review, and be sure to subscribe, rate, and share. If you would like to join our conversation on social media, be sure to use the hashtag TuesdayTalksWithSAC. Thanks for listening to this week's episode, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.